Post-French liberation saw a massive push from the government to reinvigorate the French military industry. Out of this effort rose young French aerospace company Matra, benefiting from the many government contracts in armaments and defense to become a solidified player in the French military complex, all the way to the present day. Over time, Matra began diversifying into a wide variety of industries, from aerospace to armaments, defense, communications, transport, and especially automotive. As is common in times of peace, companies flex their technical ingenuity by going racing, quickly becoming a hallmark of French motorsport through a meteoric rise to the heights of Formula 1 and Le Mans, before quickly dissipating into one of motorsport's great historic obscurities. This is the story of Matra Sport. Matra can be traced back to 1937, with founder Marcel Chassaigne establishing aeronautics company Capra, creating interwar prototype aeroplanes and armaments. Before rebranding to Matra in 1941, Matra would concentrate their gains in post-war France, ingraining themselves as a top player in the French military and government in the coming decades. Heading into the 60s, the top brass of Matra and the government had gained an immense interest in motorsport, with Formula 1 and Le Mans drawing the ire of many governing officials. Especially with the lack of winning French machines, there was growing pressure for a French manufacturer to top motorsport's world stage, and with the appointment of Jean-Luc as CEO, it was time for Matra to go racing. Matra had their foot in the door of motorsport as early as the 50s, with founder Marcel Chassaigne funding of Friends Automobile Company, that of automobiles René Bonnet, who had some very strong performances in sports car racing with multiple class wins at Le Mans. René Bonnet is also credited with the creation of the world's first production mid-engine car, through the Jet. As the 60s came around, René Bonnet was running into financial trouble that was reaching a tipping point, before Matra acquired the company in 1964, becoming an extension of the aerospace company under Matra Sport, focusing on car development and consumer vehicle production. With this acquisition, Matra began creating Formula 3 and 2 machinery, utilizing their aerospace knowledge to develop a lightweight steel chassis, allowing for the monocoque to double as a fuel tank as well. Lagardère would even convince one Ken Tyrrell early on in his career to utilize a Matra MS5 chassis for their 1966 Formula 2 campaign, getting a collaborative relationship with the rising team manager in Ken, but also with his promising discovered talent, that of Jackie Stewart. On his first impression of the MS5, during a test at Goodwood, Jackie would exclaim it was the finest handling car he had ever driven. But Formula 2 was just a step to Matra's main goal of Formula 1. After building up the foundations of their Formula 1 campaign, and on the cusp of completing their first sports car prototype, Matra had created the base of their motorsport program. And in 1967, Matra was granted a 6 million franc investment from the French government to continue pursuing and developing a winning Formula 1 car and Le Mans program, with Lagardère vowing to win the Formula 1 World Championship and 24 Hours of Le Mans in the coming years. With that, Matra and Tyrrell were headed to Formula 1 for the 1968 season, but not before settling a slight conflict between the pair. Matra wanted to use their new and beloved V12 that was still unproven, but Ken and Jackie were adamant with sticking to the reliable, quick and proven Cosworth V8 DFV. In the end, the team would hedge their bets and compromise by splitting the team into two, with Matra International under Tyrrell, alongside Matra Sports running their Matra machinery with their preferred power units. Matra's dedicated Formula 1 machine, the MS-10, would not be ready for the opening race of the season in South Africa. Instead, Matra International would bring a Formula 2 MS-7 modified to Formula 1 specs, under the name MS-9. It was a one-off brush job, modified to fit the Cosworth DFV for Stewart to pilot. Jackie would go on to qualify third with the Frankenstein machine, even fighting for the lead throughout the race, before retiring due to reliability issues. Despite the early end of the race, the weekend as a whole was a promising start to the Tyrrell-Matra partnership for the season ahead. Jackie would miss out on the next two races due to a crash in another series, before bouncing back in the latter half of the season, winning 3 races with the new MS-10 that season, including one of his most famous wins at the Nürburgring, sealing second in the Drivers' Championship while Matra settled for third place in the Constructors on their first attempt. For the 1969 season, Matra Sport would take a step back as a constructor team, with the company choosing to focus entirely on the Tyrrell-led Matra International team, given Ken and Stewart's recent successes the year prior, bringing the new MS-80, which utilised the Cosworth V8 engine as a fully stressed member, and lower the fuel cells and center of gravity, while also building upon the early wing experiments of the previous seasons. Jackie would pick up where he left off, going on to dominate the season ahead, winning half of the 12 races and claiming his first championship title, along with Matra winning the Constructors, as Lagardère promised just 2 years prior. After this atmospheric rise to the top and historic victory, Matra would gradually move away from Formula One. Having succeeded in one of their main goals, they remained as an engine supplier until 1978, but started pulling their team and talent to work on their other motorsport fixation, winning Le Mans. The one race that is mandatory for every French manufacturer to win, Le Mans up to that point had not been won by a French car since Talbot in 1950, so Matra made it an essential goal to achieve, with the first of Matra's sports cars starting to compete in 1967, the MS630, initially using BRM and Ford engines before incorporating their famed 3.0-litre V12, acting as the base of their endurance efforts, building on the formula almost yearly, upgrading from the 630 to the 640 all the way to the 660. Alongside the in-house engine's development, improving its power and reliability, it was still not enough to match the 5.0-litre engine capacity of the competition. That was until the upcoming 1972 Le Mans, when the Commission Sportive Internationale changed the regulations to limit engine capacity to 3.0 litres. Porsche Ferrari would pull out of the event, fearing the reliability of their engines wouldn't last the 24 hours, giving Matra their best opportunity yet across Le Sarthe. Matra would focus solely on Le Mans this year, cutting the rest of the World Sports Car Championship short and pulling more resources from Formula One in order to bring 120 engineers, along with 4 cars to Le Mans, bringing 2 of their MS660s and 2 of their new MX670s. Matra quickly became the favourites to win. On top of this, Matra enlisted the services of the best drivers available. This included the matching of Henry Pescarolo and Graham Hill, though they weren't entirely buzzed with the pairing at first. Henry was already upset with Matra after being dropped from the Formula One team. Once he was informed of his co-driver, he was even less excited. You see, Henry didn't trust in the aging legend Graham's ability. At 43 years old, Henry saw Graham as a bit of a has-been, skeptical of the world champion's pace and dedication in his older age. Graham, having heard of this, would toy with Henry on their first meeting, by playing up his age and dexterity, pretending to be as old as Henry as expected, before dropping the charade once behind the wheel for the first test. Swift from the moment he set off, Graham quickly gained the respect and admiration of Pescarolo. The pair would go on to claim Matra's first Le Mans victory in 1972, finishing 1-2 with the other Matra 670 of Francois Sever and Howden Ganley 11 laps down. A dream win and a dominant performance by the Matra team. It also marked the first Le Mans victory for the pairing, and crowned Graham Hill with the Triple Crown of Motorsport, the only driver in history to achieve this so far, and cementing his legend in the history books. Even once the factory Ferrari and Porsches had returned the year after to reclaim the Le Mans title, Matra proved to still be unstoppable, going on to win in 1973 and 74, with the all-French lineup of Henry Pescarolo and Gerard Larousse, while also committing to win the full season of World Championship for Mixed both times around. But like what they did with Formula One only a few years prior, after having fully fulfilled the promise of Lagardère, Matra surprise pulled out of racing altogether at the end of the 1974 season. While the company continued to strengthen its position in the French military industry, the Matra division of what was then equipped Matra Sport began to fall behind in importance. On top of the rising 1973 oil crisis and soaring development prices becoming more of a burden, Matra decided to pull their motorsport initiatives to just that of an engine supplier. Guy Ligier would take this opportunity to buy the remnants of the sporting division after Matra's withdrawal from motorsport, acquiring all its assets, along with many of the racing department staff following suit for his motorsport team Equipe Ligier, and in a way becoming the now defunct Matra team's spiritual successor. Matra would continue building production cars until the early 2000s, focusing heavily on collaborative SUVs, like the Matra Simca Rancho, as well as designing unique prototypes. Having entered a partnership with Simca in 1969, Matra was bought through association by Chrysler Europe Group in 1970, only to be sold again along with the rest of Chrysler Europe's holdings just 10 years later to PSA for $1, just to be bought again in 1983 by the ex-CEO Jean-Luc Lagardère in a shift to a collaboration with Renault. Matra would end up building Renault spaces till its end of days, as in spring of 2003 saw the last Matra factory shut down, with the very last of the Matra automobile company being sold in 2009, bringing an end to the Matra car brand. In less than a decade, Matra had sent shockwaves around the motorsporting world, climbing to the top of Formula and sports car racing, and leaving a distinctly French mark on the history of motorsport manufacturers. Having succeeded in their goals by winning 1 Formula 1 championship, 3 Le Mans victories, and 2 sports car championships, Matra had nothing left to prove, and started shifting their focus to other aspects of the business, and resigning Matra cars to the history books. Matra came, they saw, they conquered, and they disappeared.